questions that are being asked, I'd like to mostly address, so this is my preference, is questions that affect how you walk. Questions about living this out. What he's always told me is, tell them that if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they'll be where they're supposed to be. But you need a teacher to teach you what it is you need to be doing. All right, we'll begin with Megan Morrell.
I have 3 questions. Hopefully they are pretty quick. The first one has to do with the Omer Challenge. Thank you so much. It has been a huge blessing. Part of the spiritual one that I committed to was adding scripture meditation, and I've been slowly working my way through Psalm 119, just doing a section a day. And it keeps referring to your witnesses. And I just would like a little clarity on what does your witnesses mean? Is that people? Is that like just evidence of him in the world? What is your witnesses?
The second one, more than the first, okay? So we have a witness to him in the Exodus story. We have a witness to him in the flood account. We have a witness to him. These are all witnesses to him, okay? So it's not specifically talking about people as witnesses like you would have in a court case, all right? Those are people that have roles like prophets. They have a title for them like prophets. Whereas the witnesses, when it talks about your witnesses, these are the fact that we have evidence that witnesses to him, who he is, what he's done, what he's doing, what he will do, okay? So the second way you described it would be the way I would go with it. All right, that's your first question.
And I just realized I didn't say, I'm in central Nebraska.
Good, okay. Central Nebraska.
And in Proverbs 25, when the part that talks about heaping burning coals on your enemy, do you have any insight about that? It's verses, I believe, 21 and 22, Proverbs 25.
All right. If your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat. If he's thirsty, give him water. For you're heaping coals of fire on his head. Okay. So the coals of fire line, well, let me just backtrack a second. This was written to them at that time, not to you. That doesn't mean it's not for you. It is for you. But because it was written to them, it was written using idiomatic phrases and concepts that made sense real simply to them that we have to then guess at, okay? We all have, in generationally, like as older you get, you realize you've got idioms from when you were younger, and then the children today have different ones, okay? Phrases that they use, they know what it means, but you don't necessarily know. And then, of course, when you try to use them, they laugh at you, okay? So, you dumb boomer. All right. Look, the thing is, it's an idiomatic phrase. It's not to be taken like from more of a Christian mindset that somehow you're doing nice things for them. It's gonna like somehow cause them to suffer in hell or something like that, okay? Or cause them suffering, because that would be a complete missing of the point, which is the idea of loving your enemy, which is the way Yeshua described this. Love your enemy. If he's hungry, give him bread. If he's thirsty, okay? So heaping coals on them. What teaching do I have that has something hot worked into it? Baptism of fire. What does baptism of fire do? It gets your attention. It's a trial that gets your attention. Okay, so when you do these nice things, it may cause them to go through, or the Father to give them some sort of thing that wakes them up, that gives them that fire that they need to wake them up. It's not about causing them suffering. Oh, you want to get back at your enemies? Be nice to them and they'll suffer crazy. No, that's not the point, okay? Now, there is another way of looking at this culturally. I don't remember how it gets explained, but there was something to do with the fact that back in those days, people did have coals in baskets of sorts or whatever, containers, and carry them on their head, and had to do with their role and what they were doing, okay, as far as being a servant. I don't understand the idiom. I don't remember where I heard that from, so don't go with that necessarily. I like the idea that the point being made here is if your enemy's hungry, give him bread. And then you match it up with Yeshua, who's teaching us exactly about this when he says, love your enemies, okay? And so that, I think, then means that we have to take the concept. Whenever you're looking at a verse you don't understand, first get the context and maybe then the concept that's trying to, or the point that's trying to be brought to you. So what's the point being brought here? Here's a cool way to get your enemies back. Be nice to them. No, that's not the point, okay? The point is to be nice to people, even those that are your enemies. That should be a strong lesson to everybody out there that run, and all of you who want to go and make your posts about your family members or other things that you want to do. Why would you do that? Be nice to everybody you think is an enemy, okay? Don't codependent with them or enable them or say you agree with them, but be nice. We're talking about nice, like if they're hungry, you give them bread. If they're thirsty, you give them drink. Show kindness. Doesn't mean that you're now going to be best friends and hanging out and then be associated with them. Okay, but if an opportunity comes up where you can be kind, be kind. All right, how's that do for that, Megan?
That is great. I've heard it preached poorly before, and it just never sat with me that it was the right answer, and I finally thought I'd just bring it to you, so thank you for that. My last one is regarding our conversations on Shabbat. I'm noticing I'm becoming the conversation police in our household, and I don't want to do that, and yet I do want to guard the Shabbat. Can you give a little bit of guidance, a little bit more clarity on what is and isn't okay to have as conversations, and can we talk about each other's lives, things like that? Just would like some guidance on that, please.
Really good question, but you expressed part of the problem in the way you expressed the question, which is, okay, you want to make sure that the conversations that everybody's having is appropriate, not your job, okay? That's where we want to make sure. I will talk about, answering the question in terms of what things may be appropriate or not appropriate to talk about. But remember, everybody's walking out their own salvation. You don't need to be the conversation police. What you need to do, well, that's not true. Only if you're the only subject of the police matter, okay? The only one being investigated is you. Watch what you do, what you talk about, what you get involved in. This is a really important point. I'm glad you brought it up from the point of view is that I said this, I think, either Friday night or in one of the zones. I either said it Friday night during the Torah study, but I talked about we have to learn what is and is not our problem, our issue, our business. We insert ourselves where we do not belong frequently. And by the way, nobody likes it, you or them. You're not happy, they're not happy, everybody's now not happy because you stuck your nose in there. Oh, but they were talking about things they shouldn't. That's not your problem necessarily, okay? That's not your problem necessarily. So you may be saying, well, but I'm the parent, it's children. I don't know, I've gone through the parenting thing to the point where both my children are out of the house. And I can tell you that in my experience, now, I couldn't have told you this when I started ministry and had just gotten married and didn't have children, but I have children now. And I can tell you that I had very limited effect on what they did and didn't do and what they talked about and didn't talk about. So if you think that you can actually control that, good luck, okay? Because you can't. You can't. What you can do is control what disturbs you. If people want to talk about things that you don't want to talk about, then say, look, don't involve me, go do that in your room or whatever. You can't control these things. I know you want to. So let's talk about what's appropriate. What is supposed to be the focus of Shabbat? Two things, really. You're supposed to be focusing primarily on him, but it's the two great commands. Loving him, okay, and loving each other. So, is it appropriate to talk to each other about things that are about each other? Absolutely, to whatever degree that you do that. So for example, if I haven't seen you in a while, I might ask you how you're doing. And you can give me a quick summary of things that are going on, okay? But we're not gonna spend, I think this is where it kind of passes the line. I'm not gonna hear, you had a problem at work. Okay, that's fine. I don't wanna hear the hour-and-a-half version of what happened at work. That's not focusing on me loving you and me loving him. That's you giving me the whole rundown, okay? Or what happened with your medical, what happened with anything else. You can just say, hey, we could talk about the details after Shabbat. But there's nothing wrong with having a conversation. You haven't seen somebody in a while, asking about how they are, how are the children, how are whatever the normal social, family-related things would be, okay? All right, so that's appropriate conversation. I'll give you an example of what's not appropriate, all right? I was visiting with a congregation in New York, and my wife and I are there with the children, and we're at the Oneg after services. It's still Shabbat, okay? It's in the summer. Sun is not going down till like 9 o'clock, Services are over in like the middle of the early afternoon, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Now, it was an earlier service, right? And I'm listening to these people talking about, two things were wrong with this. One, they were talking about the basketball game that just finished the night before that they all watched on Friday night. And now they're going to spend the entire oneg talking about it. Okay? That's not Shabbat worthy. First of all, it wasn't worthy to be watching the game in the first place. Okay? And so you could be excited about your team. And I wouldn't have a problem if you and I were both fans of the same team and we knew that something had happened, not on Shabbat, we didn't watch it on Shabbat, but say it happened earlier in the week or whatever, or something, and saying, hey, we're in the playoffs. Hey, we won this thing. That's great. I'll talk to you about it after Shabbat. I mean, you can't help yourself. You're exuberant, you're excited, but it's short. It's something that's part of your relationship. You walk over, give a high five, you're excited. Good. Because otherwise what happens? You're not really talking about each other in relationship, and you're not really talking about him. You're into something that's peripheral to all that. Okay? I tell this story all the time. All of you know how much my wife likes taking pictures, all right? And I get it. I love it too. I love that she takes the pictures because we have something to look at. So she went on a trip to France many, many years ago, okay? Somebody had decided to take her to France with them or whatever. So she went with some friends and went to France, took all these pictures, okay? Came back. We happened to be visiting at her parents' house right after the trip, and her sister came over. It's Shabbat. She came over for Shabbat dinner. It's still Shabbat, almost sundown, but like an hour, okay? And the sister wanted to see all the pictures. And I said, let's just wait till Shabbat's over, okay? Why? Because the entire focus now will be on everything in the pictures. Oh, you went here, and look at this, and can you believe this, and look at this stuff, and isn't this pretty, and isn't this beautiful, and isn't this amazing? The focus is not on family or creator. So we want the conversation to be mainly focused. We're not perfect. There's no way you're going to do this perfectly, okay? I do not do this perfectly. Although I find it funny when people hear me talking about something on Shabbat that they would think is not appropriate and how offended they get for me or whatever. It's not your problem, okay? Worry about you. Everybody would be a lot happier if you would spend more time worrying about you than worrying about everybody else, okay? There's only a few people in this world that you have responsibility for, and that responsibility is limited, okay? Limited. Even if you are responsible, it's still limited responsibility. Your children are ultimately his, not yours. At some point, they will leave your house, and you will have very limited access to them and influence over them. Okay, your spouse is your spouse, but you only have limited influence there. You shouldn't be having authoritative control over either one. I don't care if you're the husband to the wife. That's not the role, okay? I can go to my wife, she never does this, but if I thought, well, even like with the pictures thing, when I don't know if she was gonna do it or not, she looked to me and I said, let's just wait. So I'm not gonna say she would have done it without me saying that, but she respectfully looked at me and I said, now her sister threw a fit. You know, how dare you tell me or make it, because she thought I was basically saying that she wanted to do something wrong on Shabbat. I wasn't saying anything. My wife, my choice, I'm sitting there, I said, let's just wait. We're talking about an hour and a half to 2 hours at the most. I don't remember what it was, but it was close to Shabbat. It wasn't like this is like 10 o'clock in the morning and sundown is 9 o'clock at night. It was gonna have to be all day. This is like 6 o'clock at night, sundown's 8 o'clock at night, all right? So hopefully that will make some sense to you. So yes, you can talk about almost anything very briefly, especially if you want the other person to know, hey, we'll talk about this during the oneg after sundown, or we'll talk about it tonight, I'll give you a call, or we'll hang out tomorrow, we'll talk about it, whatever. You can't help it come out of you. You've got a relationship with somebody that you have common interest in and you want to share it. But you don't have to share the whole thing with all the details on Shabbat, okay? Maybe you had a hellish week. You guys had a terrible week. And somebody comes up to you and it's like, hey, how was your week? Oh my gosh, all right? You can keep it simple. Had an issue at home, had an issue at work, we'll talk about it later, right? You don't have to do it at that point. That takes discipline, okay? It takes discipline. So nobody needs to worry about anybody being the speaking on Shabbat, whatever, conversation police. Okay, that's not necessary, okay? But that being said, let's be more aware. Okay, one of my roles is to encourage you with concepts that you may not be thinking about, and the biggest concept I want you to have more than anything else is a higher awareness of what you're doing and everybody else around you is doing and what you should be doing relative to that. What you are doing, what they are doing, and what you should or shouldn't be doing relative to all that, all right? Because you can't make good decisions unless you're actually aware. So the first thing is you have to heighten your awareness level. Don't judge. Don't judge other people what they're doing, okay? No more policing, Mom, okay? You don't need to be the police, all right? And plus, with the children, I hate to hurt all of your feelings, everybody out there. Your children are going to get bubble popped at some point, but until their bubble is popped, just because you raised them a certain way, do not count on that as anything. And if they don't end up walking this walk for a while when they finally become adults, that will not be your fault. They are who they are, just like you are who you are, okay? You do not have the level of influence you think you do, or you think you should. You just don't. So when my children got a little bit older, I said, look, it's Shabbat. Don't disturb my Shabbat. You want to go in your room and do whatever? I don't care. That's fine. I can't control that. Don't interfere with my Shabbat. Okay? Did that help?
Yes, that was great. Thank you so much.
All right, good. All right, was that it?
That was everything. Thank you.
Let's see. Shani Sembrano.
Hello, everybody. I'm calling in from California, in the United States. And I have a question that's kind of piggybacking on what the other woman was asking, and you kind of touched on some of it, but I still want to ask. So there's a scripture in the Bible, 1 Peter 3:1, and it talks about, it says in the New International Version, it says, wives, in the same way, submit yourselves to your own husbands, so that if any of them do not believe the word, they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wives. And then it goes, there's another scripture that talks about how women are to not depart, okay, from their husbands. Okay, long story short, I'm wanting to know, if a woman, let's say, obeys these scriptures, which I did, used to be married to an evangelist, but he was abusive and turned out to be wicked, and I stayed anyway, and my kids grew up in this situation, and now they're adults, but the effect of my obedience to this has left my children messed up, basically. So
Okay,
now
hold on. Okay. You need to first clarify something in your own mind, which is you were not obedient to this. You were obedient to what the church told you it meant. There's nothing in those verses requiring to do what you did. Okay? There's nothing in those verses that required you to do what you did. But you were taught that wrongly by the church. Now, your children saw what you did and saw what you allowed to happen, and you didn't leave and didn't make it stop, and so now they were affected by that. But that's not necessarily your fault either. I'm saying you were taught wrong, and you acted with confidence and with sincerity on what you thought you understood, okay? But you were given bad information.
Okay. All right. So I guess my question is, now you were saying how we have only limited responsibility once our kids are adults and, you know, what's done is done. If your children have turned away from God, what do you as a woman do? Because if your kids don't even believe in God now and they were raised in church, what do we do when we have, how do you help your kids?
Why? Okay, so are you new? Are you relatively new to us?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the problem.
Yeah.
All right, look, you need to understand these things. First of all, the NIV is never gonna help you. You need to get a better Bible. I recommend this one, the ISR one. The NIV is the non-inspired version or the nearly inspired version. It's terrible. but the verses you read, you still got the right information out of it. You just didn't understand. It says that you would win over somebody by your behavior because it's a witness to them. Your children are going to watch you, and it witnesses to them. Now, you made some bad decisions before, and it did witness to them, and they made their own choices. But you got to understand, they were never yours when it comes to this part. You were never responsible for this part. That's a personal thing between them and the Creator. Okay, and the thing that I teach is this thing called a bubble pop, which is when the Creator chooses you at that moment to wake you up to truth. Every one of them has to have that experience. They're not beyond that experience. They don't have to believe in God on any level prior to him popping their bubble. I had no vertical relationship when he popped mine. I was raised as a secular Jew with no vertical relationship whatsoever. I didn't know if there was ancient aliens or God or this or that and anything else. It doesn't, so it's between you and him. So you as an adult with adult children, all you can do now is walk this out the best you can as an example. You are not responsible for where they end up.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
And you need to start listening to the teachings, because the teachings that I do are all the tools you need to understand all of these things. So you may want to do is call here and get an appointment to talk to me privately where we can have a counsel session with me and Elder. Usually you get the both of us. And we can help you with the specifics of some of the things you're going through and help you deal with from more of a therapeutic point of view, dealing with the trauma and drama of the decisions that you've already made, and so that you can be at peace with those things, okay? Because you made them because of where you were at the time. Okay, so don't be too hard on yourself for the choices you made when those made sense based on what you understood at the time. All right? Let that be a lesson to all of you. Do not beat yourself up for things that you decided to do and choices you made when you were younger when they made sense to you then. But you're not that person anymore, so they don't make sense to you now. You would make different decisions now, but you didn't then because you were a different person then. Okay? All right, so did that help?
Yes, I will make a point. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
The first question I have is out of 1 Corinthians 11:10. Where it says, because of the woman ought to have authority on her head because of the messengers. My question is, what is the spiritual application of because of the messengers? You know, like what does the messengers, and I'm thinking they're angels, have to do with this passage?
Okay, there are going to be lots of verses, lots of passages that because it wasn't written to us, it's going to be really challenging to understand. I don't know what Paul means here. We can guess. Lots of people have guessed. I think they've used it mostly in ways to impose or, elevate men over women or push them down and so whatever it is that they do when there's authority stuff. I don't know what Paul is talking about here. And I think, quite frankly, nobody does. All right? Paul knew. The people at the time knew because he was addressing something they understood that was going on. I don't have a good answer for you. Okay, I'm sorry, Deanna, ask the next question. And that's gonna be an answer for sometimes for some of the verses in all kinds of places. We can only guess sometimes when it's not made more clear. There's not enough detail here. Okay, next.
Okay. The second question is more of a on the personal level, because I'm trying to address different things about me and my personality and me not having that soft-spoken voice. What can I do to get my point across when when I'm being direct, because I'm a direct speaker, without appearing to be mean, mad, or make them think that I'm trying to be inferior? I smile, but that doesn't work all the time. What is a different go-to that you can advise me on?
Okay, let me see how I can put this. First of all, part of the answer is there's nothing you can do. With some people, sometimes, if you're gonna be direct, there are those people that are just fragile. And they're gonna take anything direct as harsh, mean, or something, okay? I've never experienced that, but I've heard about it. Okay. I get accused of that all the time. And elders with me sometimes, and I'm being very nice and gentle, and the people are like, Rabbi was all mean and harsh with me. I'm like, what are you talking about? But it's because directness can come across that way based on the interpretation of the hearer, okay? So some of this you can't really work with. There's a technique in sales okay, that could work to some degree. Not that you're selling somebody, but it's called matching and mirroring, okay? And so if you would match and mirror their disposition, their tone of voice, their speed of talking, they would likely receive it better because it's more comfortable because it's them. Okay? When I talk direct and speed with someone else that talks direct with speed, they love it. It's fine. But when I'm talking to someone who's softer and slower, I need to soften it up and slow it down. Okay? If they're leaning in, I can lean in. If they're kind of push themselves a little bit further away, I'll give them more space and I'll kind of step a little bit away. All right? It's called matching and mirroring. It creates an environment that's more comfortable. All right? I'm not saying just literally mimic them, because they will catch you doing that if you, and they'll be like, what are you doing? Okay? What I'm saying is, if I walk in and I'm talking like this and the other person's kind of talking like this, I will start to slow it down closer to what they do. All right? And if the other person kind of has a very soft voice, I'll try to bring mine down, okay, to that level. All right? And if I notice their body language, then I might realize they're more open or more closed, and I might want to just give them, maybe I'll back off a little bit so it doesn't feel like I'm coming at them, okay? All right? But if I have somebody come talk to me and they're all like this, and I go like that too, they love it. That's the way they talk, the way you talk, it's great. Does that work all the time? Not necessarily, because if you're still being direct with the information, they'll take it however they want. Okay, I've had multiple times in my life where I was accused of yelling at somebody. Thankfully, there was a witness in the room, but all I did was tell them no, and I was direct. I never raised my voice, but I had a witness to it. But had there not been a witness, people would have believed them and said, Rabbi yelled at me. No, I didn't yell at you. I got a witness, was sitting right here. Phone was on speaker. I got a witness. I never yelled at you, never raised my voice, but I was strong. And sometimes when you're strong, people say, well, you're yelling at me. This is the tone of voice I could be very strong with, and you'll say I was yelling at you. Okay, I don't raise my voice. Elder can tell you in the counseling, I don't raise my voice. I don't need to. But I can be direct, and then people can take it in whatever way. So Dion, just realize you can't, control all of that. People are going to receive it how they receive it, okay?
Okay, so I'll try that, but how do I do it in a way to where I'm not seeming fake? Because
the bigger problem.
I'm not really good at that.
Okay, here's the bigger problem. All right. First of all, it's not fake. I mean, if I slow down, I'm just slowing down. It's not being fake. I just realize I need to slow down. If I'm talking and I need to soften it up, that's not being fake. I'm just controlling myself to a more comfortable level for the person. All right. Now, that being said, though, here's the bigger problem likely. I'm not accusing you of anything or anybody else that has this problem. Lots of people have this problem. You may just be sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, okay? That's where you're gonna get the worst reaction from people. Well, I'm just direct, but you don't need to be direct about something that's really none of your business. And you don't need to be sticking your nose in there. Because if you do, guess what? Somebody's gonna bite it. Or take a newspaper and smack it. Because it doesn't belong in there. Okay, so I'm not saying that's what you're doing, Dion, but it's probably some of the time. Because a lot of the time when people get smacked for being direct and this and that and the other thing, is because they're sticking their nose where it doesn't belong. Okay, is that fair?
Not for my occasion, that what I'm talking about, but I mean, that makes sense.
Okay.
But I usually ask if they wouldn't mind, my advice, if I have something to offer to the conversation.
No. That's still the same thing. No. Just because they said yes, it's still the same thing. Hold on. If you ask them, if you ask them, a lot of people are going to say yes, that you can say something because they're afraid to say no, they're afraid to whatever. You're still trying to impose where you don't belong. Okay? And that's where it's going to go badly. All right?
Okay, but you told us several times that if you have an idea or if you have something to add to the situation, ask, right? And if they say yes, then, you say what you have to say. But, I stopped with the giving of my advice or my whatever, unless I'm either asked or I ask and they say it's okay.
All right. Maybe you're misunderstanding me. You only got half of it. I think I've said very clearly that I don't give advice unless asked. And even then, if I know the person, I may not give it anyway because I know they won't be able to handle it. I am not offering people free advice. That's a good way to get your nose bit. All right? Dion, I know you too. So, I know kind of the things you're talking about. I'm telling you, you're wanting to be not just direct, but too direct with stuff that really is not yours to do. You want to do it. Oh, but I got permission. I asked them. I don't offer free advice to anybody. Okay? They have to ask me. And even then, I might not give it if I don't think they can handle it. I'm not getting my nose bit. Okay?
Well, thank you for that. That's a good spot for me to start.
Okay.
Maybe, I'll see if that is the problem or the issue by not offering.
Now, let me say something, and this is not about you, okay? This is about everybody that may have the same problem. You've got enough to work on you before you start advising anybody, okay? This does apply to Dion, but all of you. How are you giving advice when your life is the way your life is? Okay? Really? Are you qualified to do that? I'm talking to everybody now. Because all of you love to think, I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to give advice. Really? How about fix yourself? Worry about you, fix yourself. You spend more time doing that, you will not get your nose bit. Okay? And I think that's a really important piece of this, is that you guys all love to give advice. Well, where's your qualification for that? Is your life really all that at this point? Probably not. I don't know too many people that got everything all together, including me. I'm not saying anything different. I'm saying I don't know anybody really that's got everything together. We all got stuff to work on, okay? And what you should be doing is you should be asking for help, not offering help to somebody who didn't ask, okay? Because trust me, every day I see plenty of stuff I could go over and say something about. And you know what? It would be frustrating and exhausting because, first of all, 99% of people are not going to want my advice. They're not going to listen. I'll just be frustrated, and I'm going to get my nose bit a lot for sticking it where it didn't belong. Okay? Did that help then?
Yeah, actually, it did.
Good.
And there's only been a few of those occasions. However, I understand where you're coming from, and I'll stop offering. And then maybe I'll see if that works on that perspective, and then I'll try to do the mirroring part for the other side.
Okay, and also,
so thank you.
And also be willing, this is for everybody, and Dion, but be willing to not offer advice even when you're asked. Have some discernment as to whether or not you're putting your hand in the buzzsaw. Okay? Because some of you have people in your families and friends and stuff that they ask all the time, but they don't really want advice, and then they're going to snap on you. Use some discernment. You should know the people that you're helping. If you're helping people you don't know that well, you shouldn't be helping them at all. You have to have the right relationship to do that kind of help, advice. So if you know them well enough to have the relationship, then you should also know them well enough to know whether or not it's going to be worth sticking your hand in there and whether or not you're going to get buzzsawed, okay, and smacked and cut up or whatever is going to happen, okay?
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you very much, Rabbi. Shabbat shalom.
All right, Shabbat shalom. Thank you, Dion. All right, looks like Gog and Magog are back and ready to go.
Oh, here I am. Go Magoga. That was from that was like a year ago. My name is actually Dean. Nice to meet you. I have a question for you. In Luke 17.
Wait, hold on, Dane.
Am I talking too fast?
No, just want to know where you're from.
Oklahoma. Oklahoma.
Okay, all right. Luke 17.
Okay, it talks about the 10 lepers that meet Yeshua on the way.
Right.
And he tells them to go to the temple to go through the cleansing process so that they can be healed. As they're going, they're healed. One returns to thank him, and he's praised, and the other 9 just disappear into history. Is this representative of the 10 lost tribes and only 10% coming back to Yeshua? And another thing that's very interesting is Sarat in Hebrew, as you know, means leprosy, but sarat also means closed-minded, narrow-minded, which kind of explains most of or all of Christianity, in my opinion, anyway. And I'll shut up now.
Okay, so first of all, how long have you been following along with us?
Years.
Years, okay. So the thing is this, okay, so, because I talked about the Sarat last night, in the Friday night Torah study. The thing is here, first of all, he healed all of them. He didn't send them to be healed, because the priests don't do any healing anywhere in Scripture with this stuff called Sarat. He sent them there to have the priest examine them to declare them healed, okay? And then only one returned. Could this be a metaphor and a picture of the 10 tribes and all that stuff? Absolutely, it's used that way all the time. Anytime you have numbers like 10 or 12 and these kind of things, it makes you think about and it has the allusion to, things like the lost tribes. So yes, and as far as a percentage, I don't know that it's trying to give us a number like 10%, like 1 out of 10 came back. But we know that there's a remnant that's being worked with, which means it's a small percentage. So there could be some allusion to that. Okay, did that answer your question?
Oh, well, my reference to the 10% is in Isaiah and Jeremiah. I don't remember the other reference. But in Isaiah, it talks about going through, and he's going to only keep 10. He's going to count them. They're going to go through the trough like where animals, and every 10th one is kept, and the other 9 are slaughtered.
Right. Look, and that may be a part of the coming tribulation things, and so that may be, again, alluding to something that comes with that. We also know that, again, from all the other references that we're talking about a small number versus a larger number that are going to be getting it. We know 2/3 of the world gets destroyed in the tribulation, okay? So that takes away 66% of them, right? And then we have those that are martyred, those that will come to and see things correctly at some point. We don't know the percentages of all of this, but there could be allusions to that. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, nice.
And maybe change your name on YouTube. Okay. All right. Okay, are you up for this, Ernesto?
Yes.
All right, what's going on, buddy?
Hello. Well, been doing a lot of listening, but I think what I wanted to ask you about, I'm hoping, I don't know whether or not it's something that you can answer, but I don't doubt. So in a struggle where I'm missing my son, he's being kept away from me, and things are going not the way I would like them to be, or he would like them to be too.
Right.
My problem is when you take away my routine, it breaks, it shatters things. The pieces are on the floor, and now I got to put them all together, it feels like. So I know that I am blessed because he's looked after me my whole life. And David saying that he's the father to the fatherless means the world to me. So I think I found a solution to my problem that I want to bring to you, and that is, I do not understand at all why I'm not feeling that happiness, or I'm not like 52 years old and it's still the same thing as when I was a kid. If you rip away my routine or take away something that means the world to me, and I just fall apart, and I'm battling through the day, whether it means crying or, just wanting to hit my bag or this or that. And it's kind of whittled down a little bit where I feel tired. So I guess it's just me asking the question. I mean, at least I hope. What am I missing, or what do I need to do to get out of this.
Okay.
To walk away from it. I apologize, and walk away from it. And like my son, like Zebulon told me the other day, he said, Dad, look at this. We both need to look at this as a means, like a process for us to grow. The trials that we're going through. Because I asked him what he thinks about it. And he said, I think we should just look at it as a trial for us to grow. And that was amazing that he said that.
I agree.
And honestly, when I was his age, it's like, I think that's how it was. But I think I've lost it. And I just wanted to ask Rabbi if you were answer what you have for that, because I'm hoping that is my solution. And maybe you could probably already see that.
All right. So I don't know that I have a solution for you because you have an additional challenge. First of all, lots of people are torn apart and things get really messed up when that closest to them is taken away. So that's normal, okay? But you have a secondary additional challenge, which is the autism, all right? And so autistics, an aspect of the challenges of being autistic is routine disruption can really be bigger than it is for people that don't have autism, okay? So your routine got disrupted, you mentioned that, as well as the fact that there was this loss of access to your son, at least temporarily, right? And so this is, again, what I've talked about, and I talked about it even last night. You have to become an expert in your problem. What do other autistics do? What do they teach? What are the therapists out there teaching? What can you find to deal with disruptions to your routine? I don't know what to say to an autistic to do that. I have an idea what I would do with someone who doesn't have that problem, and I can give you that solution. It may be harder for you to do because of the autism. But I'm just saying is, what you have to then do is replace it with a new routine. Okay, your routine got disrupted. You have to accept that it's not going back to that way, at least for a little while, so create a new routine. You have to create a new routine. Your son, by the way, is brilliantly wise, gave you some really good advice there. I love what Zebulon said, all right? But you have to also understand your relationship. This is for all of you parents that have challenges with spouses and custodies and all those other things. At some point, your child will be old enough to do whatever they want. Come see you, not come see you, they'll be able to make their own choice. The hard thing is, can you be patient until then? Okay, your kid's 11 or 10 or what, I don't know how old Zebulon is at this point. You might have to wait 7 or 8 years. That doesn't mean you'll never see them. How old is he?
He's 10. He's my, I call him my little Judah because he'll be 11 in August.
Okay, so he's 11.
I don't know why.
All right, well, that's okay.
Yeah,
so,
he'll be 11 in August.
Okay, so look, worst case scenario, 17, 18 years old, 6, 7 years from now, he'll have the freedom and a car and all these other things and be able to spend as much time with you as he wants. The courts won't be able to stop that. He can do what he wants. That's hard to wait that long. It's not like you'll have no relationship. Obviously, you're still talking to him and you still have interaction with him, but not on the level you would want. The problem is, can we, this is for all of us, and Ernesto, can we accept our current reality as our current reality? It doesn't mean it will always be that way. This is absolutely something that can and will likely change when your son can make his own decisions, okay? But it's gonna suck until then. Can we handle that current reality until then? It is what it is. The hard part for everybody, I don't know if it's harder with autism or not, is can you be okay accepting it is currently, now, what it is? Not the way it's not is what it always will be, it just is what it is now. And it may be that way for a while, but it will not always be. Okay? So 2 things I would give you is come to a place where you can accept your current reality as only being your current reality and create a new routine to replace the one that's been disrupted and shattered, like you said, okay? Does that help?
Yes, Rabbi, I hope you understood why I it's like you see somebody homeless out on the street and they're just laying there and they're falling asleep, or they're just surviving, and I know that affects me. But when I'm here and I'm feeling all of these things, these emotions that I'm not good with at all, I'm just like, why am I not happy, or why am I not thinking about the things that are going well? And this one thing,
I understand. All right, let me interrupt.
you know what I'm saying?
I understand.
And it's like, for me, I would rather be standing there in front of you and I say, Rabbi, just punch me in the gut.
That's not the problem. Ernesto, hold on. But hold on. That's not the problem, okay? And we've talked about this. You need, and nobody get offended by this because we have a relationship, you need to be in consistent therapy because you have an issue that requires consistent counsel and therapy. I'm not that person. I'm not qualified to be that person, okay? But you need to have, when you're challenged with your emotions, when you're challenged with the way your frustrations are, you need to be talking to someone who's an expert at autism and can understand where you're coming from and can give you tools to work with that. And you need to be able to have someone to talk to on a regular basis about your struggles, okay? I know you want that to be me. It can't be me, all right? Because that's not my area of expertise, all right? I'm much better with people that have just normal struggles without an extra diagnosed thing, because I don't know enough of the details about the diagnosed thing you might have. And even then, I struggle with giving people answers because they're struggling with so many things going on that they're not always able to apply what I give them anyway. But also part of the problem is you have these emotional struggles and need to talk about them with somebody who can understand what you're talking about, what you're going through, from where your handicaps and your issues are, and then give you, through a therapeutic counsel, some guidance and things like that. I can't do that for you. You need that like weekly. And then if you get to a place where you're stable enough, maybe you'll need it monthly. Okay, but I'm not the person to do that. Okay?
Is how I'm feeling and everything. There's this saying, and it's like, I would rather get punched in the gut than to feel like, you know.
I know, but that's just a redirecting and an avoidance of the pain and the problem, okay? What you need to do is deal with the problem. The problem is not physical, like you need a punch in the gut. The problem is that your head has some problems and issues that you were born with, okay, that are challenging, and you need to learn and develop tools to handle those things.
Well, I did sign up for a thing it's called the Learning Well, and it's here, and they help.
Well, good. Good.
They help. I'm supposed to be doing some classes because I'm laid up at home right now from my accident from last year, and just dealing with those challenges. I think what I'm trying to say, Rabbi, is I want to feel happy.
I know.
I want to feel that I can be in that place. So there's like, you know, infinite guys probably to talk to, but there's only one that I just decide that I'm going to listen to.
Right.
And I appreciate
but I can't help you
that
with,
I did not.
Right, but I can't help you with this, okay? Okay?
No, Rabbi, the reason why I even called in today is because I wanted to see if you had a perspective that would be something that, you know, because I prayed about it. Just anything that you could give to me that would help me.
I gave you everything I've got at the moment, okay,
You
Ernesto?
did like Zebulun said. No, and I appreciate that.
All right.
That's all I wanted to say.
All right, hang in there. Try to find somebody that you can talk to. Use that resource you just said that you found and see what that does for you. And you know, you'll find what you need if you remember, ask, seek, knock. Just keep looking. You'll find what you need. All right, thank you, Ernesto. Okay, I don't see anybody else lined up in the room. Who else is lined? That's it? Wow, okay, we're done an hour early. No. Okay, what we can do, if there's nobody else in the room, is we could open it up to you guys. Anybody here to have something they want to ask or say or anything else? A live stream. Over where? You got people on live stream?
Yeah.
All right, let's go get some live stream ones and we'll kind of work them in.
And the first one's from Shelley Bell on Rumble. In Leviticus 16:30, is this connected to Yeshua and what he did on the stake? And if so, can you please expound on it, please and thank you.
All right, so this is referring to the Day of Atonement, okay? And because in verse 29 it says, this shall be a law for you forever in the 7th month on the 10th day of the month, right? You afflict your beings, do no work, etc. And then for on that day he makes atonement for you to cleanse you, to be clean from all your sins before Yahweh. It is a Sabbath of rest for you, and you shall afflict your beings law forever. This is a type and shadow to some degree about what Yeshua did, but this is talking about, okay, Day of Atonement is about what kind of sin? National sin. It's a community atonement, okay? If you read the description of what gets done for Day of Atonement, it's about the community as a whole, all right? Yeshua is dealing with us individually. So this doesn't apply directly in some way, in that way that you might want it to, Shelley, okay? But it does obviously have a connection in that there's a atoning for you, all right? But I don't want you to think about atoning maybe the way you might normally think of it. It provides his sacrifice, his redemptive act creates an ability for you or space for you to have at-one-ment or atonement with the Father, okay? Because you were separated by your sins, right? Sin creates a space. So to be at one, you need to get rid of that space. So he does create an ability to have that. So, but no, this is about more of a community national cleansing and sin atonement that we're talking about, okay? All right, it's also talking about the priest, right? The priest is gonna do this, the priest is gonna do that, because this is the book of Leviticus. So it's helping people understand the priest's role in this. All right, next.